I could drink a bottle of arsenic. You could drink a bottle of arsenic right here. Maybe I break out in hives everywhere, but your blood pressure goes through the roof. We may have totally two different reactions to it, even though it's the same toxin coming in. So chasing the diagnosis or chasing the symptom often leads frustration because what caused it isn't always the same room.
Hey guys, it's Mindi Linscombe, your host of the Something New show, where we like to learn how to live a life worth celebrating. And today we are in the studio with one of our local experts from Colorado. Well, I shouldn't say from, but living here now. Dr. Kurt Perkins is here, and he has one mission in life, and it's to help families create a culture of more health and less health care. Dr. Kurt attended the Northeast College of Health and Science, and he had the intent of being able to use non-pharmaceutical interventions to affect people's lives, physically, chemically, and emotionally. Dr. Kurt married his wife, Lindsay, in 2008, and they have 3 boys, just like we do.
Actually 4.
Oh, 4 now.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness, 4 boys. Besides working in his private practice, Dr. Kurt's place, he writes, speaks frequently, and is constantly studying to better serve his community. When not working, he's always up for a good movie, a CrossFit workout, or soaking up an audiobook or podcast. Hopefully the Something New show. So thank you for being here today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad. And I want to just tell people how I even learned about you. And it was because my husband was very much searching for non-healthcare options for his own health and well-being. And so when he stumbled upon I don't know if it was your Instagram account or something, he just couldn't get enough of it and really loved all of your content that you put out to help people. So later we'll make sure people know how to get a hold of you, because you definitely put out a lot of free knowledge for people searching for better health, which I think is great.
Yeah.
They don't have to just come see you. They can learn from you even on the internet. So
No, actually, if I can keep people out of the office, that's a win-win. So
you're like, they're healthier and everybody's winning, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, you're not originally from Colorado. Tell me where you're from originally.
I grew up in New York State, and so my whole life, schooling, everything, and then in 2005, coming out of school, I went to California first, Bakersfield, and was in a clinic there, and not my ideal clinic. It was run based on what your insurance could cover. And so it was not, I don't know. Yeah. I just, not to speak ill, but like.
No, it's fine. That's where you had a problem. You're like,
Yeah,
there's a problem here.
kind of a big problem there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of step 1 out of the door of California. Step 2 was that's when my wife and I met. She was here already in Colorado. She's from New Jersey. And so if we were going to get closer, one of us had to move. She was more established. So I'm like, great, I'm not loving where I am in California. Let me move to Colorado. And so I chased her.
So originally when you went into medicine, did you think I'm going to do it the traditional way and prescribe medicine and be that type of a doctor? Or were you always the whole time thinking, I want to go to the root problem and solve that?
No, I think there's a series of events that kind of led me to where I am now. And it goes back to being a kid. Like I was the sick kid. So chronic ear infections, bronchitis, strep throat. I was obese, like you name it. Got into college, had eczema. Like I just opened my hands up. They'd be bleeding. It'd be like this intense burning and itching at the same time that, yeah, not great for trying to find a date when you have like disgusting hands and all that.
And you probably just were putting cream on it and trying to figure out what's up.
Yes. Yep. It was just utter cream and ointment all day, every day type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and everything that you just described, I think so many of us know people, or we are the people, right? That are dealing with these health things that are consistent and always coming up. And I mean, I even know moms that these are their kids. Yeah. And so I'm just like, we're many times just putting a Band-Aid on it and continuing the cycle until we can do the next thing. And so what I think is so interesting about what we're going to get into today is we're going to hopefully challenge some people to think outside the box and not just continue to go to their normal routine appointments and put Band-Aids on. But I want you to call us out, Dr. Kurt, and say, hey, this is actually what's really going on.
Well, I think that shapes the other story as well. So like, not a healthy kid. Mom was a nurse, so I had all the access to whatever medications and vaccines and all that stuff you could have. my dad was a pastor, a very small church. It was always after like a church split, and he got like the older congregation. So I was the youth group. Like there wasn't really anyone younger than my parents in the church, and then me and my siblings type of thing. But very tight, close-knit community, and we'd have lots of potlucks. And I remember seeing, here's these Dixie cups. People have colorful-looking things in there. And I'm like, why am I, like, I thought it was candy. I'm like, why did I don't get candy? They're like, no, that's medications to get them better. But then you'd go to Wednesday night prayer meeting and someone's, hey, I got a prayer request for this procedure or this condition or this ailment or whatever.
So you're seeing lots of people taking medication, lots of procedures.
Yes. But I got, quote unquote, better from the medicine. So in my limited reasoning, I'm like, hey, they're not getting the right stuff. And then in high school, I remember we had to take one of those, like, what's your best career type of thing. And pharmacist came up for me. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to undergrad and be a pharmacist. I'm going to get these people the right medications, or if not, develop them type of thing. Got into my undergrad. My advisor was not the most positive of ladies. I was freshman class president, so I was pretty social, all that. And like end of first semester going into second, she's like, hey, I've seen kids like you. You're probably not going to be able to get into the pharmacy program in a few years. Like I had like a B average. It wasn't like stellar, but it wasn't terrible either. So I was like, okay.
What a limiting mindset.
Yeah. Yes. So I went home, Christmas break. I'm the quiet, competitive kid. And so I went and opened up the course manual. I'm like, great, what's the hardest looking thing kind of within her department that's not under her direct supervision? So I chose biochemistry. Not because I loved sciences, not because I had this like big vision of what I could do with it, but more out of spite of this lady, because I wanted to just like take this diploma and just rub it in her face in the next 3.5 years. Joke was on me. She retired the next semester. I've never seen that lady again. Like, and her retirement gift was a rocking chair. It was like so fitting. Like, go enjoy retirement and do nothing but sit there. Anyway, I got under a new advisor who had grants from the NIH, National Institute of Health, and we were doing genetic sequencing of these certain bacterias. Basically, if we could create the sequence, then we could, whatever, hand it off to someone else. They can create a medication to stop that replication of that bacteria. The crossroads came when part of my job as whatever that research assistant, I had to create petri dishes to then put bacteria in, if you remember that from high school biology.
Oh yeah, I'm picturing it now.
They had to replicate and all that. If I messed up the dish, the bacteria didn't grow well. So if I used the wrong nutrients, if the dish wasn't clean, if we used the wrong temperature, oxygen level, you name it, those cells did not grow well. So you kind of have this mindset, like I'm getting groomed to go into like biomedical research, pharmacy, like all this type of stuff. But here's the environment. And if I can manipulate the environment or change that, I can have a way different outcome with these cells. And so for me, that kind of step back and be like, okay, what's the difference between the cell in that petri dish versus a human in our environment of how we move, how we eat, how we think, all that type of stuff. So that kind of led me down the path to unknown of like, what am I supposed to do with all this? And it led me to Northeast, which at that point was primarily chiropractic school, but now they've added other programs to it. Not because I knew anything about the spine or had any like major, most kids were there because they're like, oh, I had this major transformation in the chiropractic. I was an athlete, couldn't play anymore. They got me back on the field. Like I'd never been adjusted. I'd never even, but it gave me like the best kind of tools to work with that person's environment. And then that led me into kind of the real world where now like, okay, now here's the petri dish of what
someone's
humans
environment.
are up against.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. And I mean, it's kind of a bold statement to say, I'd rather be preventative and kind of anti-healthcare system, because it's not that we don't need the healthcare system, but I'm just saying it's probably for more of very few people than the amount of people that are using it.
Yes.
If we did the preventative work up front.
Yeah.
So, I would like to ask you to explain your approach on being a guide in people's health journey, and what does that mean as a guide and what's their role?
Well, I think the the role I put in my clinic is different than traditional healthcare, because like traditional healthcare is very diagnosis based. Like you come in with this list of symptoms, great. You slapped a label on it. Here's a drug, here's a surgery, see you later type of thing. Mm-hmm. If I'm going back to the Petri dish, those Petri dishes or the cells in it didn't get sick because of a lack of medication or not enough surgeries. They got sick because they were deficient in something, they were toxic in something. So if we can identify what are you deficient in, what are you toxic in, and now create sufficiency and purity, now your cells have the raw materials to do what they need to thrive and heal and recover and go from there. So when I talk about being a guide, the initial part when I work with a client is more clinical, like, okay, figure out what's going on, what do you need? But after that, now they have to implement, they have to put strategies in place. And I'm there because the road is never this linear improvement. Like it can be predictable in the manner like I've been doing this long enough, around 90 days of someone taking action, there's a point of resistance. Life changes, it throws them off the routines, whatever, where they may regress, they may have flares, they may have some just improvement stops. Most people on their own are like, oh, it doesn't work anymore. Let me go chase the next shiny object or the next thing I hear in a podcast. I'd be like, no, take inventory of what's going around you. So there goes back to the Petri dish. What's environment like? Okay, well, this just happened in life. We experienced this. We had to do this. Okay, more got put onto your plate, creating either another deficiency or toxicity, and we have to adjust. Or this season's short. What's the one or two things to get through it? Not expecting a whole lot of change, a whole lot of improvement. But once that season's done, great. Now we can get back on track.
No, I really like that. I was just thinking about how when you do the research in the environment, you're just really unique in the fact that you've done a lot of research with your own body first. So can you talk about some of the wildest experiments you've done yourself and you've said, hey, I think this might work, but before I tell a client to do it, I want to try it?
Yeah, I think probably the one that gets the most like
traction
is doing a carnivore diet. So nothing but, or animal based. So like meat, eggs, dairy type of thing. And it came about that because like, when did I do it? I think it was 2018 or so. That summer I had a string of clients that were coming in with like IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, digestive issues. And they kind of had the similar story of like, hey, I know I should eat more fruits and veggies. Those things rip me apart. They tear my gut apart. I can't handle them. Really the only thing that feels good is red meat. But then they'd be like, now I'm afraid of the propaganda of the red meat, like it's going to cause cancer and diabetes and like
heart
inflammation
disease
and all. Like, so I'm like, great, let me be the research for you. So I did pretty extensive blood work, inflammatory markers, insulin, blood, like all the what you could do, lipid markers as my baseline, which started off decent to begin with, really good. Did the 30 days of carnivore, retested everything, and it came out better. Like I had shed, I think 3 or 4% body fat, and I was starting at like 11% body fat. Like, yeah, so it's just coming out the other end and be like, look, yes, your cholesterol may go up a little, but all these other markers improved, which then leaves that one kind of null and void and just an isolated marker. So I feel best eating that way, and I think I've continued primarily as like
a carnivore,
a meat-based diet. Like probably 85% of my diet is animal-based.
Wow. Which is, like you said, not very popular per se. You hear more about plant-based diet and vegan and all this stuff. But I mean, just to your point, it doesn't mean that that's what's right for you. So
no, and that's why I say be the research, because like it's almost like an insult. People are like, oh, do your research, because like what they were really saying is like, I want you to find what I found. Like I want confirmation and affirmation, not information type of thing.
Yeah.
So being the research, because nutritional science research is like ridiculously, I don't know what the word is, like just not applicable. Like when they say, like Harvard came out a little like, hey, meat causes diabetes. We followed this population for 40 years. Well, how they defined meat eating was like, oh, you had lasagna with some meat in it? Great. You're a meat eater. You had those nachos with the ground beef on it? You're a meat eater. Like you had like,
instead of like actually, removing some carbs and having meat.
Yeah, opposed to like a pure carnivore type of thing. So Why not blame the other stuff around it? So it's
the research, you have to really take it into perspective and say, okay, like who are they studying? What is it included? Like, what are they including in their diet in addition to what we're studying?
Right.
What were the other circumstances that may have impacted results?
Yeah.
You know, like city pollution, air levels versus physical activity. And I mean, all the other things that could potentially cause outcome to change.
Yeah. So I think like people think, oh, the data is the data. I'm like, no, that data can be interpreted 1,000 different ways to what you want to
see.
Yeah.
What's the most like common thing people come into your office with and they're like, oh, I have this going on? Like, what would you say is like, okay, this is really common?
I think fatigue is the number one.
Fatigue is number one.
And it's coming from high achievers who are used to outworking a situation. So like when times get tough, they're like, I'm just going to work harder and I get through it. And it's fine.
I can totally relate to this.
What we often see is like, okay, they're fatigued. So what? They're like, all right, I'll just outwork the situation. Let me restrict calories. Let me exercise more, whatever it is. And they're like, it's just digging another hole. And so that's the number one thing, especially for like, whatever, executive business owners, high achievers, like those types of things, what I'm seeing coming into the clinic.
What do you tell them to do?
Well, a lot of times it's doing the opposite of what. So I've told more people eat more, exercise less than I have eat less, exercise more.
Really? But it matters what they eat.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yes.
And so then we get into that of like, whatever, we'll go into like your protein, carb, fat ratios. We'll go into electrolytes. We'll go into salt. We'll go into like a bunch of things, but my initial recommendations are more to expand nutrition, not keep restricting it. Most have already like restricted so much. I'm like, you're not eating anything. Like you expect this level of performance fueling at this level down here. So we got to increase and match that up.
Very cool. Okay. Let's talk about the older generation that puts their blind trust in doctors. And I think a lot of us have maybe people in our lives that either we are the older generation or we have older generation that we are in relationship with. And I can even relate to this where, you know, a parent comes home and says, yeah, this is what my doctor told me to do or to take. And I have question marks all around it. So what would you say advice for us to be and your thoughts on what they're telling the elders?
I think we have to look at it culturally too. Like our parents' generation, boomers and above type of thing, are a modern generation where information is valued over experience, where like I'm 45, so I'm kind of caught in between, like I'm the Gen Xer. Below us, it's almost always the opposite. Experience is valued over information. So the older generation, hey, don't touch that. It's hot. Great. I'm not going to touch it. The younger generation is like, hey, don't touch it. It's hot. Like, well, I don't believe you. I either have to touch it to believe it's hot, or I have to have someone really close to me had that experience that they burned their hand doing it. So I think part of it is going into knowing like, okay, they're part of that information over experience type of thing. But then it's just asking better questions so they can start formulating the experience with it. Like, so whatever, they come out on 5 different medications. Are you healthier or not? Like, can you perform? Can you keep up with your grandkids? Can you do it? Like, so it's more like you got to put it into their daily activities of like, is this making you more human, or are you just comatose with all these pharmaceuticals type of thing?
Yeah. And what is your general opinion on their first, like doctors in the American Medical Association, their general like first response to solving problems?
I think they're trained in what they know of. So I don't think it's in bad intent at all. Their mode of operation is we find a diagnosis, we have a label, we have this medication to do it. Like that's successful in their mode of operation. Like that's how research gets passed. So like say cholesterol drugs, all they had to do is prove is like, hey, can we lower cholesterol with this medication? And like, great, yes, great, approval. If you take it a step further and be like, if we lower cholesterol, does this increase lifespan? Does this increase health outcomes? Like, they don't have to answer those questions.
They just, because they were looking at one marker it lowered cholesterol, and not the other things that I see come from those Lipitor's and things like that. It's like it lowers cholesterol, but it also does a lot of negative side effects.
Right. And I think that's the part of being the research is asking better questions. So traditional medicine is done really good at making things a moral battle of good and bad. Oh, you have this level of cholesterol, it's good. You have this level of cholesterol, it's bad. But when you step back and start asking better questions, like what's the role of cholesterol, you're going to have way different outcomes. So if you're like, hey, what is cholesterol used for in the body? Well, great. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, vitamin D, cortisol, aldosterone, like most of your brain matter. It's like the super glue that holds your cells together. So like there's so much that it's involved in. Arbitrarily lowering it because of really, really, really bad research in the 60s, like has done nothing but set up a generation of unintended consequences.
And then you have a bunch of propaganda of, selling products based on lowering cholesterol because that's what they're focused on,
right,
instead of the holistic outcome of better health.
Right.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I love to like break down commercials and things like that they're selling, just in general, because I'm like, I talk through it with my kids actually as commercials come on TV and we're watching football or whatever. I'm like, okay, so what is this product promoting? How are they promoting it? What was said during the commercial that made you feel like you needed that? What was the problem it's solving?
Right.
I'm teaching them to like look for these things. And I said, but what could it also harm?
Yeah.
And so it's just, I even joke about milk. Like my parents anyways just thought milk was so important to feed your babies. Like you must feed your babies milk for vitamin D and calcium. That was their main thing. Yeah. And I was like, oh, really? Because I think when I look at orange juice, even though I don't give my kids orange juice, but it was like more vitamin C and calcium, or vitamin D and calcium was in orange juice than was in milk. But it was such a selling point to our parents' generation to feed. That was the only good thing about milk. So that's what they slapped on there to sell it to them. Yeah. And I chose to not give my children milk when I raised them. I gave them this really healthy organic formula that was just full of vitamins and things. And that was just what I chose. But my mom thought I was crazy for not giving my kids milk.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, no, look at Mom, there is calcium in this. I had to prove her almost to believe that it was good. But can we talk about one thing you mentioned about salt in your diet? Because it sounds almost counterintuitive, but you've recommended it to both my husband and other people that there might be some benefits to salt. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I think, again, it's, propaganda. Like, so they have this, like doctors hate the word sodium or they hate the word salt. And you're like, oh, I don't do salt at all. I do electrolytes. They're like, oh, that's fantastic. I'm like, it's the same thing. Like, it's the same exact ingredients. We just put two different words on it type of thing.
Electrolytes and salt.
Yes.
So you could literally shake some salt in your water and it'd be like drinking an electrolyte drink?
That's electrolytes, yes. Sodium,
Whoa.
They're called electrolytes because it's the electrical signaling in your nervous system. And so if we're deficient in those, hormones get off, neurotransmitters get off, like there's a sodium potassium pump. So things from your bloodstream trying to get into your cells to be utilized, that gets off. So this whole 2,300 milligrams of sodium was basically like a dart in the wall. We're like, hey, here's our standard. And we got to stay under that. I see more and more if someone has blood pressure issues, again, like we got to do the standard, go consult your doctor. Like,
if you have bad blood pressure.
Disclaimer, all this type of stuff.
Yes, go consult your doctor. But Dr. Kurt says
we're blaming the wrong white powder for blood pressure.
Okay.
So they want to say sodium intake causes blood pressure issues. I'm like, well, let's step back. What's causing sodium or blood pressure is based on sodium retention. Intake and retention are not the same thing. Retention is mitigated by insulin. Insulin is mitigated by blood sugars going up. A lot of blood sugars are going up by high sugar diet, high carbs, high grains, all that type of stuff. And so they get to the scene of the crime and be like, oh, your sodium is high. That must be the problem. It's like too many tire tracks at the scene of an accident. Oh, the roads are too sticky. Let's slick them down. You're like, well, there's something up the street that keeps blinding people when we come around this bend. So people start avoiding electrolytes.
Or salt.
or salt. Yeah. Arrhythmia problems, cramping, hydration, like you name it. There's a ton of stuff that's going to, again, an unintended consequence of being low salt.
Interesting. Okay. So I have another question for you. What do you feel like is, or maybe list some things that are solvable that people probably don't think are solvable through natural approaches? Like, I mean, just run down a whole bunch of things that, like, because one time I even heard about the possibility of type 1 diabetes, which is crazy, but I've heard of stories that have been cured from a natural approach, which I don't know if that's even crazy to believe, but I've heard of that. So just, I just think that so many of us are going to our regular doctors when it is possible to change the environment in the petri dish, like you described. What would you say is a list of things that you've treated over the years? You're like, we've solved this, we've solved this. I just want our listeners to kind of be inspired that all of these things are possible to be changed through natural approach.
I mean, you name a diagnosis and you reverse engineer it. I think virtually everything. I think the limiting factor is how long have you had it? How much more time do you have on earth? Like, so if someone at 80 is coming to me with a list of things, the prognosis of reversing it naturally is going to be less than someone 35 coming, because there's just, we have an expiration date. Like that's, we don't get out of here alive. So there's going to be that limitation of type things.
But what are some maybe like things that you've seen reversed in your office?
I mean, fatigue's the number, like the big thing that's coming in. We see a lot of autoimmune conditions, a lot of thyroid type stuff, I would say, are probably the big things. Digestive. What else? I don't do a ton with cardiac type stuff, like blood pressure would just be kind of like an ancillary. Sleep's another big one. Yeah, and then, but I think the thing is, like, I'm not treating the condition.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out what's leading to the condition and then supporting that type of thing. Because you and I, like, I could drink a bottle of arsenic. You could drink a bottle of arsenic right here. Maybe I break out in hives everywhere, but your blood pressure goes through the roof. We may have totally two different reactions to it, even though it's the same toxin coming in. So there's where chasing the symptom can often leave people like frustrated, or it just keeps adding to other symptoms down the road because, like, oh yeah, we got this one under control, but now we've opened a leak over here because of that thing. So chasing the diagnosis or chasing the symptom often leads frustration because what caused it isn't always in the same room, so to speak.
What's something really easy people could do just as a small habit, like no matter who you are, where you are, an easy small habit you could do to improve your health this year?
I think make protein the hero. I think when people think protein, they think, oh, it's just gym bros and muscle and all that. But you got to think thyroid hormones, protein based, dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, they're all protein based. Certain hormones that are protein based, your gut lining's so starting with that building block, it's a building block for everything. Like
eat more protein.
Yes.
What's like a minimum threshold you think every person should have a day?
Ooh, minimum.
Like to shoot for. Like try.
I think like probably an ideal would be shooting for 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of ideal body weight. So if someone's like, hey, I want to be 130 pounds, great, let's work up to 130 grams of protein.
Wow. That's a lot of protein. And what are some of the sources you feel like are just easy for busy working people? Like, okay, I think of like hard-boiled eggs, or, I'm just like asking, like, what are some like easy grab high protein busy people?
So yeah, eggs are great. A lot of beef sticks. Like I love a brand called Chomps. Like they make some cool flavors.
Yep.
I'm not opposed to drinking, like get a shake. That can be an easy 25 grams, double it. You got 50 grams right there. And you're not like, I'm like overfull or saturated.
I got right here in my little protein shake I was drinking this morning, 18 grams. Not that good, but 18.
No, but like most people are starting with whatever. They're starting with a piece of bread and butter, and you're like, okay, there's no protein. Like,
yeah.
So drink it. Like burger patties are my all time. Like
you just go get a lettuce wrap somewhere.
Not even lettuce. I just like knife and fork it.
You do?
Like, yeah.
You go through like an In-N-Out and just get a burger patty?
Yeah, I haven't done them yet, but there's another place in town called Drifters.
And you just get a big patty.
Actually, like if I go there, they have a thing called a big on. It's 4 patties, and then I have them add an extra patty to it.
For lunch, you'll have 5 patties?
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So ideal body weight, 1 gram per. Okay. That's attainable. I can do the math on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good health tip. Can I ask you about a really hot topic right now? And I think I kind of clued you in before we started. But
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
It's no secret by now that Something New is a special place where we believe life is worth celebrating. We come here every day to make sure people feel loved, welcomed, and brought into an experience of a lifetime. You'll see friendly faces, gorgeous gowns, a well-lit showroom to highlight everyone's natural beauty, and strangers becoming friends. It's a wonderful thing to shop somewhere that listens to you and makes you feel like you're the only one that matters in this most beautiful moment of your life. We'd love to have you and your friends find your dress and become a part of the Something New family.
I would say more than ever, I've been hearing a lot about there's many different brands, but these weight loss shots that were intended for diabetics, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of influencers, a lot of females are believing that these shots are going to help them with weight loss. What I'd like to do is talk about what they're really doing, if you'd recommend them or not, and then also what you would recommend for weight loss.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell us what those shots are doing? And are they called peptides or something like that?
No.
Or what are
These are the GLP-1.
GLP-1?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically like it's shutting down your hunger signals. So it's forcing you to eat less calories because you're not hungry.
Shutting down your hunger signals. So it's basically, I mean, I had been told, and I asked you if this was true, it's slowing down your digestion, right?
Totally.
And I mean, that doesn't seem natural.
No, it's making you go into a calorie deficit, which is like, yes, you're going to lose weight, but it's not losing weight because you had an increase in metabolism. It's having less weight because you're eating drastically less.
And I mean, first of all, I just think you could do that without slowing down your digestion and save a lot of money. I mean, I'm just thinking they're expensive.
Yeah. You could, but I mean, people are going to be starving. Like they're going to be like, I'm so
hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this takes away that feeling of I'm so hungry. But you are, how do you feel about them?
I'm not a fan because it's less weight. But again, ask the right question. Like, do I want to die younger with less weight? Like, it's just.
You think it does impact life expectancy?
I don't know if they've come out with that, but like I guarantee in the next 5 years, there's probably gonna be class action lawsuits on it. Like there's already things coming out with it of the negative effects, and yeah, people are trying to sue the makers of it now.
Wow.
So you'll hear more and more of it. You're not going to hear more and more of it on the mainstream because again, who their biggest funder is pharmaceutical companies who make this. So they're gonna sweep those stories under the radar.
Yeah. Okay. So basically it's just making you not hungry. It's not actually burning fat. So what would you say is the most effective way, especially as we're at the beginning of the year? This is most people's goal this year, including mine, is to continue shedding some pounds. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on like, hey, the best way, and I think we all probably know what you're going to say, but I hope some listeners get 1 or 2 new things out of it too. It's like, what are some really like solid, and what's the fastest way too? I think that's also, they want to see results so that it makes you stay in the game.
Right.
You know?
Again, once it's interesting in my clinic, when someone comes to me and their primary goal is weight loss, they get the worst weight loss results. When someone comes to me, their primary goal is like, hey, I want to improve this, like,
I'd be your worst client then, Dr. Kurt. Yeah. I would be that girl. I'd be like, my main goal is just to lose some weight.
It's like 4th or 5th in their line, like, yeah, it'd be nice to lose some weight. Those people get the biggest changes weight-wise because they're taking care of the things that created the weight gain in the first place.
Okay.
So I would kind of question, is it you want to weigh less on a scale or do you want to look better in clothes?
Oh, I think it's more like the fit, look better in clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So taking out weighing less, I would actually say build muscle, because now that's where the physique is going to come into play. Like you have all these dresses with armless sleeves. Like the women want like
fit
the
arms
toned arms
yes,
on their wedding day. Like
right.
They want to see the ripples as they're throwing the bouquet over their shoulder type of thing. So I would say build muscle is the bigger strategy to then lose weight. So you may actually weigh more on scale, but composition is way more favorable. You're happier with your body, your energy levels are up and all that. So I would say building muscle over losing weight is the way to actually, is to get, to accomplish what they're trying to.
Okay. So number one focus would be this year, build muscle.
Yes.
So strength training above cardio.
100%.
Well, I want to I'm just curious what you're going to say. I'm going to tell you my personal journey is in the calendar year of 2023, I lost 30 pounds.
Wow, nice.
But very slowly.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of months, slow and steady. And what I changed was I switched from doing cardio to strength training. I'd never done strength training in my life. I got a trainer, but just like through an app, but a real life person that trained me and did like the workouts and had them recorded. And I went to the gym and did strength training. And then I stopped drinking alcohol, which was
huge.
It was huge, but it was not even that much. It was just a little bit here and there, but it's just gone. I added my water intake. I like increased my water intake, and then didn't eat after a certain time of night. And then I tried really hard most of the time to get a good night's sleep. Now, I am the entrepreneur that you described earlier, that when there's a problem, I just work harder. I work through the night. I'll wake up early in the morning and I will drop my workout to get the work done. Which is really sad. I mean, I'm even fighting that in the last few weeks. I told Jordan I'm so mad because the last few weeks has just been so much work. And so the thing that fell off was my workout so that I could get more work done. But I feel the fatigue of it. Like I can tell the clarity, kind of my sleep isn't as solid. And so I'm really hoping to keep going this year. But I think the next level for me, if I want to keep losing, is going to be focusing on my protein intake, because I don't think I'm having enough protein.
No.
And so it's like, okay, I'm doing the strength training. I have a pretty decent diet, but probably not nearly enough protein.
No, and I think too, like the more that's on your plate, the more you have to fuel to keep up with what's on your plate.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the hardest thing. People is like, you have to eat more. They're like, what do you mean I have to eat more? Like,
I can't even imagine having 5 hamburger patties either. Like that's just so crazy. And I will say this, I did do some blood testing and things, and it was recommended to me to go on more of a fish diet but I still eat a lot of fish. So, but I'm just kind of thinking, I don't know how much protein is in my fish diet. I don't know if that's enough.
I mean, you got to track it. Like it's kind of one of those things, you can't manage what you don't measure type of thing. Mm-hmm. So regardless if it's your business or your health or all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been so interesting. I love it. I would love to try your favorite drink because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Before we do that though, where can people learn more about you if they want to follow along as you do these experiments on yourself and you try different learning methodologies and you say, hey, this is what we're really focusing on this year, whether they're local or not? I think they should follow along. Where can they find you? I
think the website kind of gives a general overview of most of everything. So drkurtzplace.com.
Okay. And that's KURTS place.com, Dr. Kurt's Place.
And then Instagram's probably the one where I kind of showcase the experiments and all that fun stuff. And your Instagram is Dr. Kurt 1. Correct. And it's DR for doctor. Yep. Okay. Dr. Kurt 1, we're going to find you on Instagram. All right. Let's pull out what are we drinking today? We're actually going to kind of make it in front of you, it looks like, because this is your favorite drink, and I'm going to try it. So what's your favorite drink, Dr. Kurt? I love coffee. Okay. So usually after my workout, that's what I'm having first thing. Really? Okay. Yeah. Not like a replenishment electrolyte thing. Well, I'm doing electrolytes through my workout. Through your workout. Okay. Yeah. So I'm using those, but morning time will be maple syrup and cream in my coffee. Okay. When I get to the office, what I'll do is, I think you have it in your hand. Yeah, and you have one too. Is I love this chocolate caramel element. So it's salt. I put it in the coffee with some cream. Oh,
But it looks like it's called an electrolyte drink mix, which is hopefully our learners are hearing this today, is that it's really just a bunch of salt, but it's a chocolate caramel flavor.
Yeah, they flavor it so it doesn't taste like the ocean.
Okay.
And they have all sorts of flavors, like some for hot beverages like this, and then others for like your traditional.
Okay, and what brand do you like?
This one's my favorite, Element, LMNT.
Element. Okay. We're going to put some Element in here.
And again, the cool thing with them, like, yes, they have a product, but like they tell you the exact recipe they have on their website. So it's not like.
So you can buy it or you can make it yourself.
Yep.
Okay. So you put this in the coffee with cream. So we have coffee with cream. We're putting in our Element. And then are you going to put some maple syrup in there?
Just a little bit. I like some sweetness.
It's just a natural sweetener for you?
Yeah.
Do you do all these types of regimens with your kids? Are you monitoring their protein intake?
Not monitoring so much, but like I would say our meals try to be protein
heavy
focused. Yeah.
Yeah. Like give us some meals during the weeks. Cause a lot of us have kids. What are you eating at home to load these kids up with protein?
So for cereal, there's a brand called Magic Spoon.
Oh, I don't even do cereal. Magic Spoon?
Yeah. We never did cereal, but like it's
you found this.
Yeah. It was getting
hectic.
Whatever. Yeah. Eggs and fruit were like every day of their lives. They were getting sick of it. Like,
okay. So whatever. Magic Spoon breakfast.
Or they'll make some sort of they'll make kind of their own omelet type of thing, or we call it the egg thing. We don't have a better name for it, but it's basically like an egg quesadilla. So we'll do eggs and cheese, and one of my kids will like throw ham in it and turkey and all this kind of between a tortilla and eat it that way.
Okay, what about dinners? Just a few favorites.
Like Tuesday nights are usually burger nights, burgers and hot
You really
dogs.
like burgers, man.
Yeah, like
okay.
No, if I could eat one thing, like that would be
it. You'd have burgers.
I also had a leftover ribeye with it last night too.
Okay.
Trying to think again, like our kids are hit or miss now. Like we're at the age where like they like something one week and then the next week they don't.
But they know and have an awareness that protein is like important?
Yes. They're getting that way.
Okay, good.
And when, again, here's the whole thing with like behavior. Like we know they've been eating crap at school because like they can be giant jerks at home. Like, all right, dude, what's going on? Like nothing happened at school. No one like, oh, you went and decided to go eat the breakfast at school that's full of sugar and grains and all this type of stuff.
Wow, you really think that what they eat changes their behavior and personality?
Totally. Just like what alcohol does.
But
you drink enough alcohol, your behavior changes.
But same with food.
100%.
Wow, that's crazy. So like, let's just talk for a second. Kids, ADHD. What do you tell them?
So there's a couple things we're looking at. One, it can be some stuff going on in the gut. Like, so anything ADHD to autism, like that spectrum type of stuff.
Yeah.
Usually I'll see like a perfect storm of things. And it'll go back to when mom was pregnant. That pregnancy usually didn't go well, like a stressful time type of thing. Labor and delivery didn't go well. So maybe forceps, maybe C-section, maybe some sort of intervention. They had antibiotics early. They had steroids because of whatever, ear infections, all that type of stuff. It is kind of like it's this perfect storm of all of these things until the brain's like, all right, I'm on alert all the time. And so usually we're finding things in the gut, whether it's like bacterial overgrowth or food sensitivities or things like that. But then, yeah, now it's getting like, hey, they're usually going to, at that point, also be kind of sugarholics, carbaholics, those types of things. So we have to, it's a battle. But
I just can't imagine how to break that. Like that seems hard with kids that don't really see the value in the outcome. See, adults, we know the benefit. We see, oh, it's going to help me have better sleep. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to look better, like all those things.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid, you don't care.
No. And so there's a certain age where like, it's got to be the parents. Like, they're like, oh, I can't get my kid to eat that at dinner. I'm like, I know I can't get my kid to stop smoking at the dinner. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, be the parent. Like, tell them they can eat it or not. Like, my kids, if they don't like what they eat, they're fasting that night. Like, they don't get something else. So, teenagers are the hardest because they're, again, they don't usually see the value of it. They don't see the connections of it because they don't want to probably teenagers to early 20s are probably the hardest population to work, at least for me.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then it's usually after that, they're like, okay, yeah, I just don't feel good all the time. I need to change something. So.
Good stuff. Okay, yeah. Well, let's do a cheers. I'm going to try your favorite drink. It's a little bit cold now. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
But I'm mixing mine up. It's good. It tastes like that chocolate caramel. I think it like hits the spot a little. It flavors your coffee like you would get a coffee drink flavored.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Again, you got to play with the concentrations. Like this might be a little too concentrated for some. They may need
more coffee or half a pack.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I love it. I'm going to warm mine up before I finish it, but thank you for letting me try it.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be introduced to a new drink.
Cool.
So again, thanks for being on the show. And if you guys could, we'd love to hear some of your questions, comments, likes below, and share with your friends. We need some more subscribers. We'd love for you to keep joining us on our journey to learn how to live a life worth celebrating. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow The Something New Show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.